Okay, welcome to another edition of Real Estate Investor Talk. And standing with me is our Master Investor of the Month, Bruce Kerswill. And I'll explain a little bit about what Master Investor is. Bruce has been in the industry quite a while, and he's now heads up he's the chairman of the South African Green Building Council, and he's also the vice chairman of the World Green Building Council as well. And I'll first of all say, Bruce, just welcome to Real Estate Investor Talk.
Thanks, Neale.
And I think the difference here with Bruce to other investors, where it's how well my portfolio has performed, is that from a property perspective, I think Bruce has initiated something which is eco-friendly, which makes properties more efficient from an eco-friendly point of view. So, Bruce, maybe you just want to expand a little bit about the Green Building Council, what you're doing, maybe how you stumbled upon it, how it all came about here in South Africa, first of all, and then we can expand a little bit later in terms of the benefits of investing in green.
Sure, Neale. Okay. Green Building Council, really there was quite a strong Australian connection,
Right.
because I was over there on a business trip, and I just saw how much was going on the green side there.
Okay.
And I came back here and I wanted to apply it to one of our developments.
Right.
And
who was that for at that particular time?
Well,
it Spire?
yeah,
Was it
Spire.
Spire? Okay. Right.
And there was just a lack of understanding and of skills about it in the professional team. So I went over to Aussie basically to try and get a checklist. And the guy said, look, it's no point just getting a checklist and just doing one project. It's a kind of a movement, an evolution that needs to take the whole industry.
Right.
Why don't you set up a Green Building Council? And the Aussie Green Building Council was very supportive and said, yeah, we give you so much support all along the way, which they have, and really that's how it started. And basically our mission is really to help the South African property industry get into green building, and we do that in 4 different ways really. And the first thing is to create a rating tool. So we've used the Green Star rating tool. It was from from Australia, but we looked at all the rating tools in the world and selected the one that was most appropriate.
Right.
And what the rating tool does is it kind of sets the standards and benchmarks for green building, and creates that language that allows people to talk about it. And then obviously it rewards people who put those kind of green initiatives into their building. So the first thing we do is the rating tool. Second thing is education courses. So we run education courses, particularly the Green Star course, which sort of brings people up to speed with Green Star. We act as a kind of a center for kind of knowledge and innovation.
Right.
And we just generally try and get out there and promote the whole green message to people.
Great. So let's get a little bit about practical, because green building awareness has only been around 5 years in South Africa. Am I right? So about 5 years.
Yeah. Well, that's when we started the council 5 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. So what would typically be the benefits of a current building owner of going green, and because obviously there's the cost aspect of, like your beautiful house here, which you basically knocked down flat, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. But in terms of what are the real benefits for a property owner or landlord?
Well, increasingly there are financial and investment-based benefits. So,
right.
The evidence is coming in from around the world now, where green buildings have been long enough to kind of study, that they show higher rental returns, they show higher capital value. Obviously their ops costs are lower because you're using less electricity and water and things.
Right.
And then there's a sort of a new benefit which is emerging, which is productivity.
Okay. And
you're finding that because you've got a healthier environment in green buildings, so you've got more fresh air and more natural light coming in, and less toxic materials in the building, you're not getting sick building syndrome, and
right.
people are more productive, and they're starting to measure that, and some of the measurements are just amazing. Different kind of things like, well, I mean, it started with sick days, but then it goes on to trying to measure things like creativity, productivity.
Right.
And you're talking like 25% increase in something.
Sure, that's big savings.
So yeah, you know, if you can even get a 5% increase or 2% increase out of your staff,
Yes.
that's enormous when it comes to kind of maybe offsetting costs. But we've also, Green Building Council's just released, they released it last week at the IPD conference, a publication called The Rands and Cents of Green Building.
Right.
And in that we've tried to bring together all the sort of evidence from international studies and from local anecdotal things about the performance, the investment performance, and the all-over performance of green buildings. And it's a very compelling.
Where do we get a copy of that?
You can get that from the Green Building Council.
Okay, and that's what's it? www.gbc.org.za.
That's it.
Is that
That's
it?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just for the viewers out there, if they want to get hold of that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some examples here in South Africa. Do we have 5-star rating buildings? If you want to maybe just take us through one or two of the buildings and how they're assessed and what makes it then get that high rating?
Sure, yeah. You know, we have, I mean, the market started with the sort of pioneering, which was the 4-star Green Star building, and that was, first one of those was Nedbank's head office in Joburg.
Right.
The first 5-star building was the Oricon headquarters here, which was done by Rabi property developers.
Right.
And you know, they had so many sort of innovations in there, but their electricity use was 50% of what a normal building would be.
Wow.
Water use similar.
Wow.
You know, fresh air rates, the use of recycled steel, sort of ticked so many boxes, and it was done within really a commercial kind of investment context. So for some time, and I think still now, Rabi became our best marketing agent, because they were so chuffed at having got a 5-star rating.
Absolutely.
And then we got our first 6-star rating,
Right.
which was the Vodafone Innovation Centre in Midrand.
Right.
And I mean, just as an example, that building produces 215% of its own power requirement.
Wow.
So it's actually
Sure.
almost like a little power station there.
Sure.
You know.
That's incredible. Now, how does it carry over to residential? Because, you know, you're standing at your house here in Newlands in Cape Town, and maybe you should just take us through that story a little bit, because I know when we discussed our interview earlier on, we were talking about the savings that you can save. So maybe take us through some of the thinking in terms of residential, for practical tips for people who are residential owners who can apply green.
Yeah, look, I guess the biggest thing is to try and reduce your energy usage,
Right.
and you know, and that's particularly on the cost side.
Right.
If you can get that down, you know, it's becoming one of the major costs. So we looked at that. So in the design of the house, we used kind of passive design principles to,
Right.
you know, maximize the sun in winter but minimize it in summer.
Right.
We used a lot of insulation, double glazed windows, insulation in the walls to try and create a more, what do you call it, a sort of temperate
Okay.
environment in the house.
Okay.
We try to minimize the use of electricity by going for gas for cooking and wood burning stoves for heating,
Right.
and then solar wood heaters on the roof. We also played with the sort of photovoltaic, so we have got a photovoltaic installation that generates about 3.2 kilowatts,
Okay.
which kind of during the daytime the house is running on that.
Fantastic. Wow, so there's massive savings. So there are things that, I mean, well, you essentially flattened this house, not so, and then you rebuilt with all the existing material using local labour.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, you know, that was something we wanted to test. I mean, we looked at the house, and obviously the greenest thing is to retain it,
Right.
but it just wasn't kind of fitting in with the planning. So we said, okay, if we're going to take it down, then we want to try and reuse as much of it as possible. So we de-built the house. We took we took out the electrics, the plumbing, the windows, took apart the whole roof, saved all the roof timber,
Right.
took it apart virtually brick by brick,
Yeah.
saved the bricks, cleaned them, took the concrete out of the foundations, crushed it, And we were also wanting to sort of look at how we could create a labor-intensive process. So we said, right, no heavy machinery on site. So everything was done by hand. And you know, we probably had about 20 people on site over a 2-month period. And it kind of just makes you aware of how much can be done in terms of creating that kind of labor-based employment, you know, when you put your mind to it.
Yeah. No, well, I think you've done an incredible job, and Bruce, I think you've shared some fantastic tips to our readers and our viewers out there, because I think the way forward, certainly people have to start embracing this, because you know there's limited resources on the planet, and I think certainly there's lots of savings that can be made through energy, through using natural products and that kind of stuff. So thank you very much. I don't know if you want to say anything in closing on that, maybe to give some quick tips, because you.
No, I think the financial case is very strong, and as you say, you know, it's kind of like an evolution.
Okay.
It's not a fad or any, it's just we're living in a world where
it's a mindset, almost the mindset change.
Yeah, but also where resources are getting are finite and being depleted, and energy as well.
Right.
And this is really just an evolution of the whole way we build to cope with that sort of new scenario.
Absolutely. Bruce, I want to thank you very much for doing the interview with us, and also for our readers out there. And so if you want more information, I know you've got a conference that's coming up soon. That's
in October.
In October. At the Cape Town
International Convention. Yeah, I mean that's going to be really great. We've got some really top international people on that. So.
Fantastic, and that's an annual conference, and you've got top guys. And once again, you can go to the website
www.gbcsa.org.za.
Great, thanks very much, Bruce. Thank you very much for the time. I really appreciate that.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Thanks.